Hello, dear ones. This is Cynthia coming to you from Casadega, Florida. This evening of the new moon in Scorpio this October. So, the last time I spoke with you was on the Major Arcana Key 12, which is the Hanged Man. And I thought it beautifully appropriate to speak to you at this new moon on the Major Arcana, key number 13, which is the Death card. Next week is Halloween. I have my lovely pumpkin here. I thought of carving him on camera, but then I figured, cutting off a finger was probably not a good idea, so I just decided to stay next to him. In any case, so, Major Arcana key number 13, traditionally entitled the Death card. I guess it depends on the reader, but usually when the Death card comes up, it's not talking about a physical death. I suppose it can, especially with other cards, but again, I think it depends on the reader too, depending upon their ethics and how they stand on being able to predict things like that, or what messages, some people, Spirit actually utilizes them to bring messages to people about mortality in that sense. So, it's possible. I don't usually see it that way, and in terms of the flow of consciousness through the Major Arcana, what I'm going to specifically focus on is the fact that, as we saw in the Hanged Man, that opportunity to pause and take stock and reflect and to let go of that which does not serve, right? You're essentially getting your bags ready and packed for the next step on your journey, which is the Death card. And usually the Death card comes up and it portends some kind of transition, some kind of major change that's happening either internally or externally. But anything that's going on externally in terms of your life or your circumstances or things of that nature don't happen without first a shift internally. So on a consciousness level, the Death card is really talking about taking that step from one state to another, making the decision and then taking the action to move in that direction, stepping through that threshold. It's not the threshold itself, like it's some kind of a transition you go through. It's about making the decision and taking the step. And if you've prepared yourself, you've reflected, you've given yourself the opportunity for new ideas, then you're walking through that open door of opportunity. And that's what the Death card really represents. External circumstances, it could be a marriage, it could be a death, it could be a birth, it could be a complete change of career or livelihood from one thing to something completely different, not tested before, so to speak. So usually if it's talking about a circumstance that's going on in your life, it's talking about a major shift or a major change that's bringing you from one thing to another, right? You go from single life to married life. You're not one, you're two. You go from not being a parent to suddenly having this tiny human who's, for all intents and purposes, 100% you are their total world, right? So those are major changes. Those are major shifts. If you grew up in a small town or something like that, and suddenly you were off to college, or you got a new job and you were moving someplace else and you had barely been out of your state, that's a major change. It's not like you're moving into your own place down the street from your parents or your family or your support network. You know what I mean? That's completely different, right? So it signifies that major change in that transitional moment, going from one state to the next. Aside from season, why the pumpkin? For Halloween, we carve them out, we hollow them out. We sometimes put a face or something on there. And what's the lore behind that? Is that if you have that outside your front door, then spirit going looking for a body or something like that, spirit, demon, fae, whatever, right? Depends on your tradition, I suppose. The idea being that they will see the light inside of the pumpkin face, the jack-o'-lantern, and they will go into there, and it effectively kind of holds them. When we gut it, we take out what's inside. We can eat the seeds, we can make pumpkin mash, and, then make all kinds of pumpkin desserts and pies and cookies or soups and all kinds of cool stuff, right? But what's the thing with just the pumpkin gourds? They're regenerative. They will constantly, well, with most gourds, they'll grow out of themselves. So the seeds will sprout inside when it's old and then start, sprouting out, right? Pumpkins and other squashes and things like that, they're always symbolizing this regenerative process. When we think of death and how it represents our mortality and how it represents our fears and the darknesses and the unknowns and things of that nature, what we really need to look at is the fact that with those endings is a new beginning. It regenerates out of itself into something new, into new growth. So again, when you took that moment of pause and that moment of reflection back with the Hanged Man card in Key 12, you're getting rid of the false beliefs, the things that no longer served. You were changing your mind about things. You were letting go of old entanglements and the stuck emotional feeling attached to the memories, right? Getting past that, getting through that, and moving ahead and moving forward. You're regrowing, you're regenerating. What did you bring with you? You brought with you the knowledge that you learned from past lessons. You brought with you perhaps some memories and things like that. You brought with you the truth of growing old beliefs into something new, a new way of thinking, doing, being, or letting go of old beliefs, completely shifting them and changing them, right? You bring those seeds with you. You take a step through that door of opportunity based on your free will, based on your decision, and you get to move forward and grow something new. So the important thing about harvest time is, especially as we come up towards final harvest, is to remember that it's not just what we get out of this in any way, shape, or form that we can share with others, that we can be grateful for, but we also have the seeds that we can save through the winter and then replant in spring for new growth. So it's a wonderful growth opportunity here. And that's the important thing to remember about Major Arcana key number 13 is the growth. With every ending are the seeds of new beginning and new growth, and bringing that forward. So at this new moon in Scorpio, as we come up on Halloween, and as we walk into, even in November, season of gratitude, sharing, preparing for winter, mentally, spiritually, maybe even in some areas physically, we're remembering that we're grateful for what we have, we're grateful for what has come to fruition, and for what we are getting out of everything that we've done throughout this past year, And as the calendar year comes to a close, we're reminded that we have that opportunity to make decisive action, to move forward, to grow new things in our lives. Because whatever we've ended, whatever we've let go of, whatever we've changed and shifted, we now have the seeds to grow something new and regenerate. And with that, I leave you. Until next time, peace and blessings.